Hello and welcome to Unacademy. As part of a Hindu analysis today, we'll be discussing 6 very important articles out of the Hindu newspaper. As it's a Monday paper, you don't have a lot of articles, but 6 very interesting topics have come up in this paper. Now, before we start, a very important announcement for you, which is that from today, which is 1st of July, the Conquer Mains program is going to start, which is the quality enrichment program for students who are expecting to write the examination this year with regards to mains, who are expecting to clear this examination. And generally, if you want mains level understanding and answer writing practice in that sense, this is the program for you. Now, based on popular demand, and a lot of you have been writing to us, we have taken a decision. The decision is that from 1st July at 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. in the night, the first 6 sessions are going to be live on YouTube for free for everybody, so that you can understand what is the program. So from today, we'll have Shyam sir. He'll take economics, QEP, Conquer Mains session today. Thereafter, we'll have Mukesh sir taking environment and geography. Then we will have Hima Bindu ma'am. On 3rd, she'll talk about science and technology and aspects related to answer writing there. So we have first the whole GS paper 3 bunch along with GS paper 1 for Mukesh sir. Then on 4th, I am going to discuss how we are going to approach, for example, establishment of British Raj. We have 4 sessions for modern India. The first session is going to establish the company rule itself and what are the type of questions which can come in, and we'll basically revise. For a subject like history, I'm going to, within these 1.5 hours, revise every important aspect of that section so that you can understand it and you can write mains level answers. The facts don't matter there, it's the conceptual clarity. Thereafter, we'll have Sarmat sir taking a session on polity, and thereafter Chetan sir on 6th is going to take it on IR, which is GS paper 2 bunch. So we have GS paper 3, GS paper 1 and GS paper 2. The sessions are going to be like this. Thereafter Astha ma'am will take it over from the app itself. So from 1st July to 6th July, this whole week, the QEP program Conquer Mains, please do remember, is now going to be live on YouTube. So look out for the session today. Do join us. The time has been kept in this way because when it comes to main level preparation, or when it comes to, for example, working professional or college going students, this is a very good time in which after your dinner, you can concentrate and sit. We have UCAN sessions also in the same period because this is a very fruitful time where you are done with everything and you can concentrate. So do make sure that you join us today and thereafter for the next 6 days on YouTube, and this is where we are trying to make sure that your preparation goes in the right direction. Free of cost, everything on YouTube 1st to 6th. Thereafter, if you want to follow the program itself, Conquer Mains, you'd have to then enroll into the program. All the basic details have been given in the description box. The link will provide you everything. So I think this is a very good development, a very encouraging development, and I hope you are going to become a part of it. With this, one more important thing, that with regards to history optional, use the code AMOPT. If you have ever considered history as your optional, this is the right time. We have still not entered in the zone of Vedic age. Today we'll discuss Aryan and Vedic. So this is a program which has been running since 25th of June, and this is a 360-hour program. Within 150 days, we'll finish everything. By November of 2024, your history and your optional will be done. And if you have any queries, you can join this Telegram group and you can sort out any issues there. You can always email me and message me, and you can also comment anything with regards to history optional in the chat box. With this, before we look at the topics for today, a question which we discussed yesterday, which is patents. Patents. I gave you the basics of patents, the concept of trademark, the concept of copyright. The question: patents grant inventors exclusive right to use, make, sell their inventions. Patents protect the idea and the concept behind an invention indefinitely. Most of you, 100% of you, have actually got it correct. Here the answer is only 1, because it is not indefinite. It can be a 15 to 20 year period. Thereafter, you would have to renew it. Now, most of you given the right answer. I have, whatever I have seen, I have not seen a wrong answer that way. So option number 1, A, is the answer, and all of you answered that. You can see, or I like the fact that you all are engaging. This is a very encouraging development. This creates a certain what we call as a practice or a habit through which you are solving questions. Again, I have 2 questions for you today from the prelims section. 2 questions for practice and 1 previous year questions I also have. So we'll discuss all of that also. So first we'll discuss a very contagious issue, which is education, and the state list has been in the news quite a lot. The second one, which impacts all of us, is from GS paper 2, which is the new criminal laws coming in. This is not something just for UPSC. This will impact you and me on day-to-day life. I hope that we don't need to use it, but we still get impacted. Then a very encouraging development with regards to a report which has come of taxas. Taxas means entities or of flora and fauna which India has added, and multiple new species have been found in India. Then a science and technology based supercapacitor concept, but also something as a byproduct which can be used to make supercapacitors. Then a transfer of power within the army, and last but not the least, submarine technology and DRDO project 76 we'll discuss. As of right now we are at project 75I. We will discuss what is this concept of 75I, and then what is project 76. With this, let's start our first topic. The first topic deals with education and the concept of lists, and it's a very interesting topic that way, because this has been in the news because of the NTA, the recent scam and paper leak in NEET UG, the cancelling of the PG. The same institution, NTA, was also organizing UGC NET. NET paper happened. Next day it was cancelled because again paper leak. And thereafter CSIR NET has also been postponed. New dates have been indicated. But because of the NEET level scam and the dreams and the futures of our children and our aspirants in a balance and also jeopardized through this act, the fact of the matter is it is disillusioning. The fact is, when I am preparing for 1.5 years, I give the examination with all my might, and I think we as a UPSC aspirant, we go through the same process, that it takes a lot of momentum, it takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of perseverance to give that examination as given on 16th June. UPSC is known for its accountability, for its integrity. However, NTA till this year was also considered a very safe institution, but unfortunately there were certain developments which happened which in turn led to the defaming of this institution. Now when it comes to NTA, National Testing Agency, the question comes in is that education as a legislative subject is under the concurrent list. Now there have been questions with regards to why is it concurrent. The reason being that in concurrent list, both the union and the state both can legislate, and therein lies the story of NTA. National Testing Agency is a centralized authority which was created by the union government to conduct examinations such as NEET, the NET examination, UG, PG, and other examinations which are quite important. 5 to 6 lakh students get involved within NET, 11 to 12 lakh students get involved in NEET. UPSC has its own mechanism to conduct the examination. State PCSs also follow the same concept. But the idea is, when did education go into concurrent list? This is a very important point. Has it been always a part of the concurrent list? Now that creates a certain question in our mind. Firstly, when did this concept of lists come in? Therein lies modern India. Therein lies my zone, that when did concurrent list concept, state list concept, union list concept come in, and when was it transferred to the concurrent list? Now this is our starting point. So the static portion I'm going to discuss, and then we are going to discuss for and against for moving education back to the state list or keeping it within the concurrent list, and what is the expenditure which happens as of right now vis-a-vis union and state. So this is the entry point for us. I think I don't need to tell you the plight of the students and the outcry which has happened over NEET, and the Supreme Court had to get involved. So all of that is sorted. We all know the feeling, and it would feel quite disillusionment and alienated when you go through a certain process, you put in a lot of effort, and the output is a paper leak. So there is a problem. So let's start our discussion from the starting point. See, the concept of lists in exact terminology, in legal jurisprudence, in constitutional terminology, this is called legislative jurisdiction. Is called legislative jurisdiction, which is what is the jurisdiction of a certain entity when it comes to lawmaking. Now in India, for the first time, the concept of legislative jurisdiction was introduced through the Government of India Act 1919. The Montagu-Chelmsford reforms that ways were the ones which introduced a concept wherein the imperial, sometimes also called central, and the provincial list was created via the Government of India Act 1990. This is the British introducing the concept. The British introduced quite a lot of concepts which we use today, from bicameralism to the concept of bicameralism at center, state. All of that comes from these acts itself, but we are concentrating on legislative jurisdiction. Now, Government of India Act 1919, imperial and central list, imperial or central list or provincial list comes in. But what we all remember for 1919 is the concept of hierarchy. Now, because they had to introduce hierarchy, a list system was needed. Now, firstly, what is hierarchy and how is it different from bicameralism? Because a lot of students actually confuse this. Bicameralism is two houses, physical houses, meaning two different houses, unicameral, bicameral, Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha, bicameral. Now, hierarchy is not the physical division of houses or even the MPs or MLAs. It is rather the differentiation in lists. So what happened to the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms of the 1919 Act was that they created the imperial list, on which the Governor General of India plus, or rather, and Viceroy, he along with his Central Legislative Assembly and Council of States used to legislate upon. So the concept of Central Legislative Assembly, Council of State, the concept of bicameralism also introduced through this act. Now the bicameralism at center was to make law making process more, if you want to call it, comprehensive, but it was basically a drama done by the British to add more Indians into the legislative process in order to actually show that there is representative government in India. So the Central Legislative Assembly and the Council of State concept comes here, and the imperial list is under them. However, in the provincial list, they wanted to limit the power of Indians, and therein lies the concept of hierarchy, wherein there were certain subjects, for example, important subjects at the provincial level, which is irrigation, the concept of taxes at the level of the provinces, law and order, police. These were legislated upon by the governor through his executive council, which is the irony here. Executives are involved in legislative process, and there were other useless subjects which really have no purpose to the British, not useless today, but for the British they are useless. For example, sanitation, education, and even the concept of the water management is something which the British don't care about. So they what they did was they put it into another list within the provincial list, which is the provincial legislative councils are going to legislate upon. Now this is called reserved and this is called transferred. This is the concept of hierarchy, that within the provincial list itself there are some legal spaces or subjects on which only the executive council and the governor is going to legislate upon, important ones, and on the other hand the PLCs, the provincial legislative councils, and the governor are going to legislate upon transfer subjects. Mostly transfer subjects are things which the British did not really care about after a point. By 1919 they don't care about education, sanitation, water management, local self-government. These are things which they don't care about. That goes under transferred. However, they still care about customs. They still care about the taxes. They still care about the concept of within reserved, the concept, for example, of law and order and police. So this is called hierarchy. This is called bicameralism, two houses. This is called hierarchy. Now under this, the question is, where was education placed as a subject? In this period, education was placed within the provincial list, and that too within provincial into transferred, because the British, by this point in time, their idea of indoctrination, the utilitarian project was over, so they really don't care about what happens at the education stage in that sense. Now, these are only two lists, but in India, there are three lists. That change comes through the Government of India Act 1935. Through the Government of India Act 1935, what happens is that there are two things which are introduced. The concept of residual power was always there. Residual power always remains with the Governor General of India and Viceroy, and at the provincial level, if there is any dispute, that goes into the Governor's hand, therein he has a veto. But the Government of India Act 1935, the idea of imperial, which is central, provincial and concurrent list comes in, meaning a list on which both the imperial or central and provincial legislative council or assembly can legislate upon. And the idea was anything which goes beyond this residual power remains with the Governor General and Viceroy. Please remember, this is a same person, not two different. It's just a title, Governor General and Viceroy of India. Now this is where concurrent comes in. However, still education was here. There are much more changes done by Government of India Act 1935 that is of not any purpose to us as of right now, from All India Federation not coming into existence, which came in 2020 this year's paper, from the hierarchy proposed at center, which was actually not put into place, from the hierarchy being abolished at the provincial level and provincial autonomy coming in, and the other smaller changes with regards to the RBI getting the Reserve Bank a tag in that regard, to the separate electorates being given to women and depressed classes, lot of other provisions. But this is where our concentrated effort is right now, which is to understand where is education. So education remained under provincial list. Now this is the colonial background. But one thing was very clear, which the British also were very clear about. Education is something in which one size fits all is not going to work. Every province, every presidency has its own purposes and its understanding, and therefore something like education should always be with the provinces, not with the center, because the center is not in the position to go into the nitty-gritties and the grassroots level dynamics of education generally. Now, once we became a republic after independence, we get independence on 15th August 1947 and we become a republic on 26th January 1950, and with the idea that the concept of post-colonial jurisdictional understanding in 1950, we placed education under state list. That was sorted. So we basically did not change what the British had already done. The British had put it under provincial, so the imperial became the union list, provincial became the state list, concurrent list remains the concurrent list. So the state list, education as a subject went into. Now between 1950 to 1970, there was a lot of debate and a lot of understanding which was getting created that should education also be legislated on by the center? Do we need a centralized authority? Is the professionalism of the states not enough? So there were multiple questions. However, the main change will happen in a very controversial context, and that is during emergency. As under Indira Gandhi's emergency between 1975 to 77, there was a committee which was established, which is called the Swaran Singh Committee. Whilst there are multiple things which the Swaran Singh committee actually talked about. For us, what is important is Swaran Singh committee argued that education should be moved from state list to concurrent list so that the center can also legislate upon with regards to creating centralized authorities in education. And there was no real debate or dialogue or logic which was given. As it is, it was the emergency phase, nobody is going to ask anything, and even asked, you will rather be put into jail. The idea is the concurrent list argument was given, but there was no real what we call as rationale given behind moving it from state to concurrent. Now, in order to give effect to this, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act will be passed in 1976, and under that when the constitution will be amended, this is going to be put into force. Education moved from, this was the recommendation, moved from state to concurrent list. Now we know that when it comes to the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, it is quite controversial because of the way Indira Gandhi pushed quite a lot of different ideas and what we call as constitutional concepts through this act itself, and this was one of them. And once the emergency was over, the Janata Party, through the 44th Constitution Amendment Act in 1978, tried to undo a lot of things which were done through the 42nd one. So the 42nd put education into the concurrent list, and through the Janata government, through the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act in 1978, they tried to change a lot of things, what was problematic when it comes to the 42nd one. However, there was a bill which was introduced which said that we should bring back from concurrent education into the state list, meaning they were trying to do exactly what the Swaran Singh committee had said, the opposite of it, and they were trying to undo the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act concept that education was moved from state to concurrent. Now this bill was introduced in the Lok Sabha, wherein the concurrent list should be amended and the education subject should be pushed back to state. However, this act or bill will pass, and it's not an act, but this bill will pass from the Lok Sabha, but in the Raj Sabha it will get defeated. And since then, between 1976 till 2024, with an attempt made in 1978, the idea was and is that education remains within the concurrent list. And the beauty of the concurrent list is that if there is a conflict between the law of the center and the state, the center law is going to prevail. And therefore, as of right now, this is the case, but this was not the case at the time of independence. The whole process which I've gone through here, I'm trying to push only one thing, which is education in British logic was also a state subject. In Government of India Act, it was also a state subject. And at the time of independence and when we became a republic, it is also a state subject. It is only during emergency and Swaran Singh committee's recommendation, it was moved to the concurrent list. And when it is in concurrent list, there was an attempt to bring it back to the state list, but that got defeated within the Raj Sabha. Therefore, the bill never became an act. So therefore, as of right now, education is in the concurrent list. Now the question is, should it remain there? Should it remain there? First, let's look at the international context. When it comes to education, is education which is always with the center or with the state? So, in the US, in Canada, in Germany, and in South Africa, this is a state subject. In Canada, it is a provincial subject. In Germany, it is again a provincial subject. And in South Africa, it is also a provincial subject, which is basically a state subject. So the international precedence is that concurrent list should not be the place where education should be placed. It has to be the prerogative of the state so that it can develop its own understanding of education. Now, based on this, now we have to have two discussions. First, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? Meaning, for and against. Should education remain within the concurrent list? Advantage, where we have to agree. Yes, it should, because that allows for uniformity. In higher education, in secondary education, in primary education, in all spaces of education, uniformity is something which is quite important. Now, the disadvantage of the same approach is every state is different. One size fits all approach is incorrect, and states should have the way to create their own syllabus and should also have the right to have their own modifications to the education system if they want to. Now, as of right now, the central government has not taken into consideration all of this. But the question is, who spends more on education when it comes to revenue expenditure? Let's try to also understand that. When it comes to revenue expenditure, who is spending more? Revenue expenditure on education is at 6.25 lakh crores. Meaning revenue means that it is just giving the salaries, it is the consumptive form of revenue of expenditure, not asset creating. Asset creating would be create a school, but if you are giving salaries to the school employees, to the pensions to the school teachers, that is basically revenue expenditure. The school itself is a capital expenditure. As of right now, 24% of this is with the center, and 76% of all this expenditure is made by the state. This means that at the end of the day, as of right now, the states spend the most. They are the ones who are enforcing the laws also. They are the ones who have to manage grassroots level politics and understanding also. But at the same point of time, education remains within concurrent, where the center can come and have a sweeping understanding or create a body like the NTA. So the NTA is the direct product of the concurrent list idea, and therefore people are saying that the states should have their own way of recruiting, or what we call as taking admissions in different examinations. Now, both are dangerous. Concurrent list, you can see the problem is that center does not understand everything in the every state. One size fit all or top down approach is always not good. But the other aspect is that, which goes into advantages, states cannot always be trusted with education also, because then you have too many different variations, and at the higher education level, then you would start to struggle to integrate students together. We already have school boards, we have CBSE, ICSE state boards, and that integration itself is quite difficult when it comes to college level. For example, in Delhi University, when a lot of students come from different boards, some of the boards don't teach certain things. So at higher education level, and this is the way forward or the middle path, higher education should remain with the union. It should remain with the union. However, primary, secondary, senior secondary, you can push it to the state so that they get the exclusive right. Though this is actually also a non-issue, because at the end of the day, the state can still legislate because it is in concurrent. The center also has the right. That is the problem which is coming in. But that is again a political narrative rather than actually a logical narrative in that sense. So, what did we learn in this? We learned the history of education being placed within the different acts. We learned the difference between bicameralism and hierarchy. We also understood what happened through the 42nd and 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, and what are the true, when it comes to international context, we have precedents. When it comes to constitutional context, precedents, that also we have precedents. However, constitutional precedence is there, the concept of international precedence is there. Concurrent list does not bar the state from legislating upon it, but there is an anger with the NTA which is being vented out by saying that the center should not get involved in these things, let the state do it. Tamil Nadu and other southern states have been pushing for their own allocation of seats when it comes to NEET and medical colleges and engineering. That also is not very good, that also has its problems, but this is the middle path. Now, this is the question which the UPSC can ask you. With regards to the recent controversies, there's both constitutional and international precedents for restoring education to the state list. Do you agree? Now here you have to take a middle path. You have to take a middle path. See, it is a do you agree question or a comment question. So you will say that when it comes to constitutional precedents, since Government of India Act 1919, it is within the state list or in the provincial list. When we look at the international precedents, it is also that across the world, everywhere provinces manage everything. Center does not have the right for education. However, through the 42nd amendment, there was a change which was done that the center also got the additional right to legislate on education by putting it to the concurrent list, and therefore, the idea is very, very simple, that allowed the center to create centralized bodies. And in light of recent controversies, there's a lot of anger which has developed. However, let us try to understand what is the advantage, disadvantage. Advantage is centralized authorities, uniformity and professionalism, and more than that, oversight, which is important. The disadvantage of the same is going to be too many variations that could lead to a lot of issues when it comes to higher education. What is the way forward? Higher education should be with the center, or let it be in create a bifurcation. Higher education in concurrent, primary secondary education into state. That would make more sense. That is really something which the center should also consider, which is to break the list, the subject of education into two: higher and primary secondary. Primary secondary, push it into state, let it be in concurrent. So interesting question, interesting topic, makes you think quite a lot. Thereafter we move to something which is going to impact you and me from 12 a.m. since the morning itself, which is at 0000 hours on 1st July, 650 district courts and 16,000 police stations across the country have now moved away from the old IPC and CRPC to the BNSS, which is under section 173 of the BNSS. There will be the cognizable offences of what we call as FIRs will be done rather than section 154. Now this again creates a lot of questions in the mind of an aspirant. What is BNSS? What is it replacing? And let's try to understand a certain controversial issue here also with regards to the police custody concept. So there were 3 acts which were introduced and passed by the parliament. The first one was called the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita Bill 2023. This changed the colonial British-made Indian Penal Code, the IPC 1860. This has now 356 sections vis-a-vis the 511 which were there under the IPC, and they have amended close to 175 sections, and 8 sections have been added and 22 sections have been removed. The reason would be very simple, which I have also argued through my own article on the police, which is that the IPC actually embodied the priorities of the British. IPC, be it CRPC, be it Indian Evidence Act, all these are colonial acts. And when it comes to colonial acts, as David Arnold points out and argued by a lot of scholars, these acts were the ones which basically embody the priorities and the principles of the colonial state. They were not there for welfare, they're not for community policing, they're there for proper policing based on exploitation, a police which is paramilitary, a police which still hasn't changed the way, that way which is the Irish constabulary model. The police in that regard is something which produces power and also maintains power. So this is a standard argument. I have written an article on the police and colonial policing. I'll push it into the Telegram channel. You can read that. It talks about the idea of priorities, principles and the police. Now, the other act which was amended was the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, which is basically the BNSS, which we are saying, the Code of Criminal Procedure. This was the procedural law brought in during the colonial period, but then amended in 1973, wherein how the different ways or procedures are followed within the jurisprudence is spelled out. 533 sections. Here we have added, there were 478. Don't have to learn this though. 160 sections have been changed, 9 sections added, 9 removed. And the IPC is very closely based on the Indian Evidence Act, which is Bharatiya Saksha Bill 2023, 170 sections, 3 more than what was there previously, and 23 sections have been changed and 1 section added, 5 repealed. Don't learn this data, how many added, how many repealed. I'm just telling you it was a major what we call as upheaval or overhaul of the structure. This was basically to remove obsolete and colonial sections and adding more relevant ones in that regard. Now the second question is, then what are the major changes within these? The major changes are spelled out by this infographic. See, the first, under the BNSS, which is, I'm going to call this as BNSS, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita. Under this, first thing has come in, which is the concept of, the concept of zero FIR was always there, but it was something done in extraordinary context. Zero FIR means that, for example, I'm in a city A and I get robbed. Now, I live in city B. When I reach B, I realize that my purse and phone is gone. Now, what used to happen was you would have to travel to A, go to that place where you think you lost the phone and purse, and thereafter you would have to lodge an FIR or a complaint in the police station, nearest police station in that district. So basically, you had to go to the district police station. You had to go to that specific district. It was your responsibility to see what jurisdiction it was under. Now, zero FIR concept, which was used in the Nirbhaya case also, was the idea that the police does not need to look for jurisdiction. An FIR is lodged and it is then internally allocated to the police station based on investigation, and it doesn't really matter which district police station it falls under. Now, the provision of zero FIR has been made more open, which is that the police cannot ask you to go to, for example, I'm in Vasant Vihar, he says that you go to Vasant Kunj police station. They will say no. Now you can say that under the BNSS, it doesn't matter in what jurisdiction I am. It is your problem to figure out which police station jurisdiction it is. I have lost my phone and purse, lodge a complaint, and I believe that it is in Vasant Kunj, but you're the closest police station to me. I will lodge a complaint here. So the idea is zero FIR has now been made more common and more accessible. So it doesn't matter if I've lost my what we call as phone and purse in A, I have the provision even to go to the B police station, my city's police station. They will transfer it to the state police in that sense. So regardless of police station, regardless of jurisdiction, a FIR can be filed. Second is the online registration of police complaints will start. This will actually save a lot of time, because in most cases you are not going for an FIR. A lot of students, a lot of people don't understand what is the difference between a complaint and an FIR. When the police just takes a complaint, they're just taking cognizance, okay, that something has happened, this is the complaint. But if the police thinks that there is further something to be done, then they will lodge an FIR. FIR is the second stage. First is the complaint. So complaint mostly is what happens is you take a parchi, they will stamp it saying that yes, we've taken your complaint, we will see what we need to do. In most cases, complaints don't automatically become FIRs, and 99% of most of the complaints actually don't become an FIR. So the idea is online registration of complaint. For example, yes, you need a new SIM, you would have to go to the police station, give it, then the person is the duty in charge is going to stamp it. Now you can get it online. And in a heinous crime, videography, which was done later and was not compulsory or mandatory, is mandatory now. Further, a person can report incidents through electronic communication, which is that they don't really need to always be in the police station. This will also help the what we call as witnesses. This could be something quite significant. Video conferencing can be used to basically do, which is followed in America quite a lot, that video conferencing, everybody joins in with the judge. Thereafter, this I am very skeptical about, or we all will be in that sense. Judgment in criminal cases has to come within 45 days of completion of trial. So this is where I think expediting the idea of judgment and getting acquittance or what we call as prosecution is questionable in India. When it comes to legal cases, it is quite slow. Let us see if this really works, which is 45 days. You have to complete the whole process of criminal judgment itself. Let's see what happens here. Thereafter, they've added provisions related to false promise of marriage. So if you are giving false promise of marriage, there's a higher what we call as punishment. There is a change in the punishment for gang rape. There's a change of minors specifically, and mob lynching for the first time has been added into the BNSS, which is also quite important vis-a-vis what was happening in India in the past decade or so. Thereafter, it is also very clear that when it comes to a women rape victim, she will not record it in front of a male officer. It has to be a woman officer, along with the fact that she will also have her guardians inside the room so that she can be comfortable and record her statement. Then death sentence or life imprisonment minimum for gang rape of minor. And the most significant is a section which the British had introduced for the Wahhabis in the late 1870s, which is sedition. The word sedition has been replaced with secession, which is act against country's sovereignty, unity and integrity. This is a way in which we are changing the colonial stance or the colonial nature of jurisprudence in India itself. This is a very interesting development vis-a-vis that. So these are the major provisions which change under BNSS. Now, there is one controversy. All of this is just for your understanding. They can ask you a question vis-a-vis the major changes, or they can ask you the provisions. I have a previous year question here, very interesting that way. Now, look at this concept very clearly, that there is one major change when it comes to police custody and judicial custody. Now first, let's see what happens, what would happen or would have happened pre-1st July. Meaning, till yesterday the process was, for example, I committed a crime. The police came and caught me, and thereafter they were able to ascertain that the crime cannot be investigated within 24 hours. So they would have to produce me in front of a magistrate. A magistrate, a district magistrate that was, a judicial magistrate or the district magistrate would then send me to 15 days custody. But this was what is called as 15 days police custody. Now the rule was from the date of the crime, for example 1st June, I can only be sent for 15 days to police custody till 15th June. After that, the police has to produce me again in front of the magistrate. If the magistrate says the investigation is, you now go for charge sheeting and go for the concept of moving it to court, then my police custody would be over and I would be sent to the next, which is called judicial custody. Now, whilst the trial happens and I don't get bail, I am not in the police lockup. Here, I am under the police lockup, which is the lockup in the police station. I will go to judicial custody, which is in jail. If I get bail, I will come out. If I don't get bail, I will remain within the jail whilst the trial is going on. And there's also one thing, which is the magistrate can also increase the number of police custody days to say that, okay, 10 more days you take, investigate. So the idea was, first 15 days of the crime you could go into police custody. Police custody, you remain within the police lockup itself, and the police after 15 days would have to produce you in front of a magistrate, and when the magistrate says I am satisfied, then it goes to judicial custody and trial period and bail. If you get a bail, you automatically come out of the police custody as it is, and he could also extend the police custody. However, now there has been a major change. Now, when it comes to police and judicial custody, there is a major differentiation. This is something which the UPSC also asked. Police custody is the immediate physical custody of the police, by the police of a person who has committed a crime, and judicial custody is rather ascribed to the idea that your judge actually says that now he is under my custody. Here the custody is of the police, here the custody is of the judge. Thereafter, a person is arrested and brought to the police station for processing. This is the first time. Suspect can be interrogated. It's a very important point. Interrogation can only happen without permission of anybody under police custody. and you can also get a lawyer who will check that all your rights are in place. And police custody, you are under police protection. On the other hand, when it comes to judicial custody, the judge takes your responsibility on the protection and safety of the judge. No such action is needed because already the trial is going on in the court. The idea is also very simple, that without the permission of the judge, nobody can interrogate you in judicial custody. And the custody of the judge that way is quite important, because here you are more safer, because the police is known to or has a certain history of, for example, torturing or any form of pressure being applied to either go for the concept of getting certain information out of you. So here the 1st June to 5th, the first 15 days, judicial and police custody are quite important. Simple, straightforward, police custody, police responsibility, police lockup, first 15 days. Now, and then you have judicial, judge, no interrogation can happen under judicial custody. Now from today onwards, the law has become very, very dangerous. Today onwards, when it comes to police and judicial custody, there's a change. And the change is that from me doing the crime on, for example, 1st June, I commit a crime on 1st June, and now the 15-day period concept is not there. The concept is 90 days or 60 days, meaning 2 months or 3 months. The police is not obligated to keep me for the first 15 days only. They can say, we want to keep him for 3 days, then send him to from police custody into judicial custody. But then they say that we want to, because interrogation can happen here, no interrogation here. They will say, no, we want to again interrogate this person. So now you can be taken out of judicial custody, and they will say, for 7 days we are going to keep him in police custody. We want to interrogate him. Then they say, our work is done. Now they say that now let him be in jail for the next 15 days, which is in judicial custody. But I need another 5 days to investigate. So I will take him out from judicial custody and put him into police custody using my 15 days like this, 3 plus 7 plus 5. So what has happened is, I can now break the police can break the police custody into stints, and also it can happen in a 90-day or a 60-day period. So therefore, you can be going out of police custody into judicial custody and back, which was something which was not possible. If you have once gone into judicial custody, only when the judge says that he needs to go back to the police custody, it's okay. Most cases, the trial used to start and the person is in jail, he either gets a bail. Now that bailing, the concept is the first 15 days were mandatorily given for police custody. Now that can be broken up and pushed into different phases within a 3-month period. This is where a person can be harassed for 2 days. For example, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. For example, 2 days in police custody, 1 day in judicial custody, then 2 days. This can harass the if a person has been wrongly convicted, or if you have not committed the crime, whilst you are not convicted, you are as it is innocent. The idea is you cannot, the rights of the person. This is what a lot of different activists have pointed out, that under the section 187 of the BNSS, the police custody of 15 days can be authorized in whole or in part at any time duration from 40 to 60 days or 60 to 90 days period of judicial custody. And therefore, thus, the magistrate can order any accused person can be shifted from judicial to police any time beyond the first 15 days. This is where a lot of legal activists are saying that this will be misused by the police, and the police will get a proper way of harassing the person who is being convicted or is on trial, and therefore this is something which needs to be amended. And therefore the government is saying that we are going to give the states the right to recommend us changes in that regard and this and that. But this is something which becomes quite significant in the context of what is happening in India. So how can UPSC ask a question to you on this concept? It's very, very simple. See, this is a 2021 previous year question. You are going to give me the answer to this question in the chat box. With reference to India, consider the following statements. Judicial custody means an accused is in custody of the concerned magistrate and such accused is locked up in police station, not in jail. During judicial custody, the police officer in charge of the case is not allowed to interrogate the suspect without the approval of the court. Which of the statements are correct? Please answer this question. It's a previous question coming out of the exact thing which we've discussed, and I hope that all of you will answer it correctly. All the answers to this question is going to go into the chat box. Question number 1, I want everybody's answer in the chat box. Now 3 to 4 simple straightforward topics, not quite heavy that ways. First is, you obviously can't learn this, but I will emphasize, India has been able to identify in the past 1 year, for 2023, 641 fauna, which is animal, and 339 flora, which is taxa, entity or species of plants in India. Now this is quite significant that ways, because India as it is a very diverse ecological zone, geographically also quite diverse that ways, and we now have new species being found in India, but also more clarity on the species which are there. For example, out of the 339 taxa means entities, 326 were new species, 13 were interspecific taxas, intra-specific, meaning they were going from plant database, and also 2-3 plants had different interconnections or intersections in that sense, and therefore that ways we have a new set of facts to be learned for the prelims examination. This is all prelims oriented. Let's concentrate on that. You can't obviously learn all of this data. Do remember this. First is that a new type of turmeric, a new species of turmeric has been developed, has been found in Manipur, and there is also one more flowering plant which is called the Asteria venui, which has been found in West Bengal. This is what is important. I'm marking for you. First, you have to know a new type of turmeric. The second is a new flowering plant in West Bengal. Kerala had close to 101 new additions, out of which 74 were new species, 27 new recorded from West Bengal with 72 new species, and Tamil Nadu with 64. So Kerala that way topped this list in that regard. Further, we have been able to also ascertain that the Siberian ibex and the Himalayan ibex are two different species. This has also been sorted. We have also found a new bat in Karnataka, and last but not the least is we have added in that regard a huge amount of new fauna in the invertebrate category. Fauna means animals, and 564 new species specifically in 2023. And 77 of them are vertebrate. What you should learn, I'm marking in yellow. This, and this. That's it. Now you see, this is the turmeric, this is the Himalayan ibex, which has now been argued as a different species itself, and this is the bat which was in the news. So I've given you the infographics. You will get this PPT in the Telegram channel. Do note these. This is coming from Karnataka. The Himalayan ibex generally important. This thing come from Manipur. Now the question is, how will UPSC ask you a question? See, this is the type of question which they can ask you. In the year 2023, a new species of turmeric was discovered in which of the following state or UT? You will give the answer to this question, a very easy one, in the chat box. Again, I want everybody's answer in that. A very important practice and habit we've discussed and developed. Mizoram, Jammu and Kashmir, Manipur or Nagaland. Which of, this is a very realistic question, has come in the examination previously in a different form, but is very standard when it comes to UPSC. After this, we have a new research which is giving us a lot of promise, which is what is called as coconut husks, which is the primary byproduct of the coconuts which are produced or what we call as produced rather in a way one of the biggest produced out of Kerala in that regard. From the southern sector, peninsula sector, we have a lot of coconut husk which comes out, and through a certain process, what they have argued and what has been developed is through the process of retreatment, carbonization, activation, they have been able to develop supercapacitors out of this coconut husk, which is quite significant. So the researchers at the Government College of Women, Thiruvananthapuram, have devised a method to get activated carbon out of coconut husks, and that will in turn be one of the biggest agricultural residue of Kerala, which can be produced into low cost, readily available, eco-friendly carbon for supercapacitors. Now, what is a supercapacitor? A supercapacitor, so you would have seen this for sure in a lot of devices which you have in your houses. This is called a capacitor. A capacitor holds electricity for a small capacitor can hold electricity for a small period of time. However, a supercapacitor has the capacity to hold electricity and energy for a very long time. So they have much bigger storage capacity when it comes to energy, and in that sense there was a solution which was needed in the electrode material, the carbon which was needed there, which is coming from coconut husk derived out of the husk. You're getting 4 times more efficient carbon for the supercapacitors. These supercapacitors are considered to be the future of energy storage and what we call as EVs. In electrical cars, in EVs, a battery loses heat because battery loses energy because of heat, but a capacitor is very good when it comes to holding electricity or energy even under high temperature, low temperature, or different environmental contexts. So if you've ever bought a dash cam for your car, you will see they will actually mention not based on batteries but a capacitor. Why? Because batteries heat up and there's a chance to burn. However, capacitors have a very good way of insulating that heat and not leaving that energy or not leading to bleeding of energy in that regard. So this is a very interesting development which is coming out of Kerala, wherein through the process of carbonization they're making the carbon which can be put into an electrode to make it into a certain capacitor, a semiconductor, which therefore can be the future of energy storage across the world. This is quite a significant development that way. Let us see how this becomes more and more common, but this is a new development which has come through, and in Kerala, and see that way coconut husk is one of the most common byproduct of the coconut economy. So again, interesting, and we should see where it goes in the larger context. Now, thereafter, a very small but straightforward change which has happened. General Dwivedi has now assumed the charge as the 30th Chief of Army Staff, and General Dwivedi has a very illustrious career that was as born in 1st July, it is birthday also today, 1st July 1964. So on his birthday, he has taken charge of the Chief of Army Staff. Now, this may be relevant for you in the what we call as PCS examination, but because UPSC this time has asked the ranks of different officers when it comes to the Army, Air Force and Navy, these things are going to become more and more significant. But as of right now, small, simple, straightforward topic, just an update to you, which is that we have a new Chief of Army Staff. As I said, Monday paper, Sunday they don't have editorial. Today they had one editorial which was basically useless for a UPSC aspirant. So I've tried to pick up things which are relevant for your preparation. Last topic is the most interesting, which is DRDO. Now, as of right now, we have something called Project 75I, under which we are making submarines. But this project is for 30 years. And very soon we are going to develop Project 76 submarines. Now, what has been proposed by the DRDO is that the DRDO is procuring submarines which are having certain indigenous elements, but most of these elements are being also integrated to foreign companies. But what the DRDO wants is, under Project 76, they want fully indigenous submarines. So the idea is very, very simple, which is under 75I, DRDO is already procuring a lot of new submarines, and Under Project 76, they want to go for substantial indigenous content and the Indianization of the submarines in that regard. So this 30-year period is going to end very soon, and with regards to that, the DRDO are proposing that we want to create a certain preliminary paper. This is what they're basically saying, that we want to develop a certain concept paper on how we will proceed with regards to Project 76. However, this localization, this Indianization will need a certain what we call as understanding. For that, we will do research. Now, for you as an UPSC aspirant, what becomes important is what is Project 75I, because that is what is being done as of right now. See, in India, we have two major classes of submarines. One is diesel electric and the other one is nuclear submarines. When it comes to nuclear, we have only two, which is Arihant class, INS Arihant, and INS Chakra, which has been taken from Russia on lease. These are the only two submarines which we have which are nuclear. Quite low number of nuclear submarines, because they can remain underwater for year on year if they have the right equipment and supplies. This is the future of submarine technology. But 75I is about diesel electric, wherein through diesel engines the batteries are charged and it can go for close to 30 to 40 till 72 maximum 4 days underwater. It has to resurface because it would have to charge its batteries again. And Project 75I, multiple different actors are linked up, from Russia to the French to the Spanish to the South Koreans. Multiple were shortlisted, and as of right now, under the Scorpion class, which is one of the most important products of Project 75I, we have already received INS Kalveri, Khanderi, Kharanj, Vela and Vagir. Now the next one which we are expecting is Vagshir. After Vagshir is done, this project is most probably going to shut down and Project 76 will start. Now the Scorpion class that way has low acoustics underwater, which is good for stealth technology. It has low radiation noise levels also, hydrodynamic optimized shape itself also, and the capabilities are good. Anti-surface warfare, anti-submarine warfare. The name Vagir itself was not the first one. We already had a Vagir in 1973, decommissioned in 2001. The concept is very, very simple, wherein the French are giving us these what we call as diesel electric submarines. But 76, and I've given you the details of each one of them. This is the one which we are waiting for. Launched in 2022, Vagir, Vela, Vashgir, Kharanj, Khanderi and Kalveri. I've given you the details here. Please just remember one thing, that Project 76 is not going to be like this. Project 75 is about collaboration with the French, with the Spanish, with the South Koreans and the Russians. 76, we are now producing a document which will allow us to produce indigenously mostly 80 to 90% of the components in that regard. And this is why this article is generally important. So with this, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you so much. I will see you with another set of CNAs. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.